palatable to the public is, I would say it should be scientifically defensible, and it should have precedence with other jurisdictions. Because otherwise, it's one of those nasty, inflammatory things which creates an outburst of emotions. That is not a good base to create a bylaw. If we have a problem.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. You're right.
But I would like to have that commitment that we are working towards such a bylaw.
Is it possible to embed the spirit of intent into a motion?
Yeah, what I would say is council already has on file resolution number 228, which is on page 17. And that resolution was that council directs staff to develop recommendations on how to amend the ESA and steep slopes development permit bylaws by incorporating the 4 key objectives as presented to July 21st, 2011. You could amend, you could have something similar to that. Right now we're saying rescind that resolution as well, but you might want to leave that resolution on the books. And then that is still a direction to staff. And then separately, you are rescinding the readings to the bylaws. So there is still that direction to staff on the books.
And if I may just to add to Kathy Lalonde's comment, it fits in also earlier we talked about strategic planning and referencing or topics that were from the current plan and things that we're going to revisit and consider again. This fits in that same category as well, so it fits in with what we've done in the past. Keeping resolution 228 keeps it alive and allows us to redefine it back to you, and you can make your choices to move forward with it. Councillor Morris, I think, was suggesting we keep both, or keep or not.
I'd like to see 11236 because that's the one that says staff be directed to hold public education, consultation, and information meetings and report to council with recommendations.
Okay, but to rescind first reading as well and then direct that or
Oh,
not?
we already rescinded, oh, no,
That was just
So why don't we rescind the 2 bylaws and add on the words that staff develop recommendations on both bylaws.
Resolutions.
Sorry, what did I say? Develop resolutions?
Both resolutions.
Whatever, okay,
Almost
resolutions.
use the text provided by the previous council.
Well, why not just do the bottom half of this recommendation and not the top half?
If you remove the, as Councilor Moore says, if you remove the first paragraph of the recommendation, which is resolutions 228 and 236, giving staff direction be rescinded, that will mean that no matter what council comes into place, those resolutions are in force until rescinded. So that, if we remove that part of the recommendation and rescind the bylaws, the direction to staff is still in place to bring back options for council's consideration.
That idea.
So the resolution would then read that all readings of bylaw number 296, 2011, cited as BIM land use bylaw number 57, amendment bylaw number 296, steep slopes development permit area bylaw, and bylaw number 299, 2011, cited as BIM land use bylaw number 57, amendment bylaw number 299, environmentally sensitive development permit areas bylaws be rescinded. And that would be the only part of that resolution.
So the bylaws are gone, but we still got direction to staff to come back and say, how do we deal with hazardous slopes and environmental sensitive areas?
Right.
And we've got to change it from steep slopes to the hazardous slopes.
Yeah, which is, I think that's being heard by staff, so we'll bring that forward.
Okay.
in that regard.
We have a motion? Sorry.
I'll speak, basically, I'll read that motion, that's,
Okay.
it's been read, as read.
Yes.
You second it? Tim? Any further discussion? No? Question? All those in favor? Pass. So the next thing on the agenda is Karen Wall. Where's Karen Wall?
So now we're into the purple package. So this is a half an hour, so I kind of call this an appetizer tour, or a fly-by tour of a couple of things. So there's kind of three parts of what I'm going to talk about. One is where are we at in 2011? The second is where are we at with the 2012 budget? And the third is where are we at with the core service review? So I'm going to walk you through the documents you have in here. This really needs like 6, 7, 10 hours, not half an hour. So I'm going to try and stay really high level, but we do need to have more conversation at a more detailed level in this time in the new year. So I just wanted to highlight some documents that have been given already to council, because you may not have had time to read through every set of agendas and minutes in the last couple of years to know what's happening. So the first, if you just look at the attachments on the report, I'm sorry, I don't have a page numbers, I don't think, so hopefully I'll follow along in where you have them. The first attachment is the budget position report that was presented to council on November 7th, and it's dated September 30th. It's as of September 30th, presented to council November 7th. There's an attachment, okay, so I'm looking at 17A right now.
Oh, you're 17B.
I'm just reading the cover sheet of 17A to let you know that there's an attachment to that report that was presented already to council on November 7th. And it's a spreadsheet, and it is, I should tell you the right page number, it is 17G, as in goodness. So I'm going to walk through first what you have, and then I'll talk about what you have. The next thing that you have is a report that was presented to council also on November 7th. And it's talking about the 2012 through 2016 5-year financial plan. So that report starts on page 17H. And there is an attachment to that, which is the excerpt from the budget motion that was made by council on July 25th, and that is on 17O. And that's 2 pages. What I didn't include in your package, because I felt it wasn't as relevant for a fly-by 30-minute tour of where are we at, was a discussion I had around a proposal to increase some of our fees that we charge. So I didn't include that information because I thought it was too much detail for this quick conversation. But if you wanted to find it, if you go on our website, it's very organized under all the agendas, and all of the minutes are in there. And so you could find it by going on the November 7th 2011 agenda package, and it's all in there. So I'll keep going. What I did include that was not handed out on November 7th, but is very important, and that starts on page 17Q, and it's a fairly large document ending on 17Z, and that is our guiding policy, and it's called Guiding Principles for Planning and Budgeting Decision Making. So that really governs everything, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So I included that because it's super important, I think. The next document that I included is a document that was brought to council on November 28th. And in there I laid out some grand overview of where we might be going around the core service review and also around the budget, a little bit more of an update. And with that I included an attachment that was handed out on November 28th as well, and that is a sample document that we're using for the core service review, what I call the list of key services, the what, the why, and the resources template. So now I'll back up again and start at the beginning and talk about what you have in front of you. So I'm going to loosely read the document on 17A and B and C to you to let you know what's here. So the budget position. So this is, the budget position is a terminology I hadn't used before in my previous life. It might be called a status report or a budget to actual comparison. So it's basically saying where are we at with where we thought we'd be at. And as you know, sometimes you can say, well, if it's at September 30th, which this report was, you can say, well, that's 9 months of the year, therefore divide by 9, multiply by 12, and that might tell us where we're going to end up. And for some things that works, for things like insurance that we pay once a year, you can't do that. So basically, I go through every line and say, where are we at, where are we at? I get manager involvement and say, how's your budget looking? Is there any surprises that you want, that we need to plan for? Is there anything that's alarming you? Maybe we've coded something to the wrong place, or maybe you were expecting some revenue to come in that didn't come in yet. And then together we can follow up and look for things. And there was something we were following up that just came in today. So it's a really good process to do. And it's something we've been challenged with finding the time to do. But we've done it quite well in 2011, I think. There are some surprises, and they're not surprises because council already knew about them, but there are some things that are not on track with what we expected. And those I've highlighted to you. One of them is the OCP legal defense costs. There was no budget for that, it was an unbudgeted item. So that is talked about in more detail in the document that council already received. So if you want to read more about these things, I'm just flying high and telling you the things that you should know about. The fire station, a few of you probably know that the septic field failed at the fire station, so they are having it pumped every couple of months. That's costing money that we didn't budget to have done. That's fairly nominal. They had to buy low flow toilets and try and deal with that rather than rebuild the whole septic field at this point. So they're kind of emergency measures to stay, to get us through the next couple of years until we can make a big decision of what we're doing with that fire hall. Also the back deck, I had to have some major repairs on it, and that was under budgeted. So I call that emergency expenditures unplanned. So I'm on the second page now on 17E. Am I on 17E? No, I'm on 17B.
D.
B is in Bob.